In the words of promoter Jarrett, as long as you kept it real, you could do anything in the wrestling business. And that's the one thing you can say about the legacy of the Memphis wrestling territory is the fans were 1,000% invested. The live Memphis studio show where anything can happen because it's live, and boy, just about anything did happen. It didn't matter where it was in the parking lot. Didn't matter whether a guy was taking a goddamn axe to his arm for a blood oath. It didn't matter where somebody was set on fucking fire. Those fans were going to witness everything and anything, and they absolutely kept coming back for more. It didn't even matter if it was in the Mid-South Coliseum, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Tupelo, Mississippi, Louisville, Kentucky, Evansville, Indiana, or any spot shows or wherever they ran. The Memphis wrestling territory history, it is steeped in a whole bunch of entertainment, craziness, wild brawls. Those wrestlers, those managers, man, they absolutely had the fans eating out of the palm of their hand. The fans wanted to see their heroes triumph, they wanted to see the villains fall, and they were ready to rush the goddamn ring to make sure that their heroes triumphed. What a legacy. I'm Jarrett with my review of Tales from the Territories, Episode 1, Memphis, where wrestling was real. From 7 Bucks Production, yes, The Rock and Danny Garcia's production company. He's best friends with his ex-wife. Good for him. My fucking goodness. The Rock is cooking all over the place. Anyway, it's also from the creators of Dark Side of the Ring, Evan Hussey and Jason Eisner. And this is kind of a holdover until we get Dark Side of the Ring Season 4. And I was a little bit, I don't want to say I wasn't invested in the idea of hearing Tales from the Territories, but when I heard what it was like roundtable discussion, that's what it is. It's a few people from the particular territory telling stories, reenactments rather, like Dark Side of the Ring, and just some funny banter, and also some weird fucked up shit where you're like, God damn, that shit really fucking happened? Now, sure, some of these tales are fanciful, and maybe there's elements of truth. Who knows? It's just entertainment. But let me know your thoughts on this show in the comments, please. I will be reviewing every single one of the 10 episodes, and then hopefully Dark Side of the Ring Season 4 is going to be coming up, because I can't fucking wait. I've loved pretty much 90% of the Dark Side of the Ring episodes, and I absolutely can't wait. But that being said, I like that this is almost a palate cleanser, because this way you can, watch stuff about professional wrestling and hear about the glory days. Now, I'm not going to say that Memphis Wrestling was my absolute favorite, but I appreciate the mindset that the talents had. They wanted to make sure that they got the fans just locked in, even if they had to do wild and crazy shit. The panel, by the way, was Jerry Jarrett, the promoter, his son, Jeff Jarrett, Dutch Mantel, Jimmy Hart, who looks the goddamn same as he did in 1980. He must have found the Fountain of Youth. It's fucking incredible. Love Jimmy Hart, one of my favorite managers of all time, and Jerry Lawler. And Jerry Lawler is going to be on the next episode because it's going to be about Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman and their rivalry and how that helped really, push Memphis wrestling up as far as prominence and even a little bit of notoriety, because some people were like, oh, what the fuck did they do? And they actually made that work. But this is about just various tales from the Memphis territory and the travel and all the stuff. And I like the reenactments, and again, just a nice palate cleanser. The old footage was just nice to see. And I wrote down how Jimmy Hart looked the exact same as he did in 1980. That they pride themselves on making the fans feel invested, and if fans wanted to rush the ring, they were going to teach them a goddamn lesson. How territory wrestling fans were absolutely locked into their particular territory. There was very low crossover unless there was syndication in particular cities, like that was just at the end and the ends of various territories and stuff like that. Sometimes world-class TV would bridge over into Mid-South because of the syndication, and then Mid-South would bridge into a little bit of the Memphis market, but not until a little bit later. And that was just because at the time the advent of like major league broadcast signals was still being it was still experimental, shall we say. But a sign in Jerry Jarrett's office, personal issues draw money. And I will say this again, while not the biggest Memphis wrestling fan, he's right. Personal issues do draw money. If you are invested, you are 1,000% ready to just absolutely throw down your money to either watch it live, watch it on pay-per-view, whatever. If you believe it, if you're invested, then you're going to be locked in. So 52 weeks a year, you had Memphis, Louisville, Evansville, Indiana, and various others. Cities they would travel. I think it was like a 2,500 mile or 2,500 mile round trip territory, but still, that's a lot of fucking driving. Not as much as Mid-South, but nevertheless. that the WWE roster in the glory days, a lot of the talents came from Memphis and came from other territories, let's be fair. But yeah, they're looking back on it, some of the, the Memphis wrestling roster in the 70s and even the very early 80s, people were just going to Vince because Vince was offering more money. And Jerry Jarrett, that's the one thing. He ran the promotion on cheap. He paid people decently. But besides Lawler and a few others, others were just kind of gaining the bare minimum, maybe a little bit of a boost because Jarrett was smart with his money. So we do we do hear about fans rushing the ring. Jimmy got shot with a makeshift blow dart gun, and he had to get a tetanus shot. Christine Jarrett, aka Teeny, she says, "Well, you probably should go to the clinic, Jimmy." That's by the way, Jerry's mother. Just so you know, just in case you didn't quite get the whole Jarrett tie-in. And then if a fan really pissed off a wrestler, tried to beat him up, the cops would bring him back, and then the wrestlers could smack the shit out of him, which is what should happen. Any fans want to rush the ring or rush the field, players or the wrestlers should be allowed to honestly beat the living shit out of them and leave them a goddamn drooling vegetable, as far as I'm concerned. But nevertheless, Lawler punched a guy, and then there was another guy that was going to throw a brick through his windshield, and he was going to try to run him down, but then he saw that all four of his tires got slashed. And then the Mario Galento story, who was a journeyman wrestler that had a great bad guy face, and when Jeff Jarrett was working for Roy Welch, who was a longtime promoter, I think went back to the fucking 30s when he was promoting, along with Nick Goulas, and that's a whole other story for another day. Jarrett was a wrestler and also booking some towns and becoming a promoter, and would eventually branch off and do his own thing, and Nick Goulas' territory would die because Nick Goulas was stuck way back and didn't pay people well. Jarrett at least paid people a little bit better than Nick Goulas. Boy, howdy, you read up on Nick Goulas, you'll understand. But Mario Galento wasn't happy about being pushed out of the territory. Even though he was older, he wasn't what he once was, and also he was a bit of a nut. And people got in Roy Welch's ear, and this is what Jarrett's saying, that, well, Jarrett's trying to take the promotion away from you. So Galento attacks Jerry, tries to go for his bad eye, because apparently, I guess, Jarrett only had one good eye, which is amazing that he could even wrestle, in all honesty. But he said, I was taught how to fight, and basically just go for the larynx, bite the jugular, they'll bleed to death, or take out the eye. Well, he lost his eye, and then the story got worse. And they said, worse after that? Dutch Mantel didn't say much for a while. Galento did lose his eye, apparently, and died with only one eye. Lawler and Sam Bass, his manager at the time, had to attack Galento and then covered up with promos. Lawler's like, I hate that no good son of a bitch, Jerry Jarrett, and I'm the only one that's going to beat him up. Nobody else. I don't need any help. And then Galento tried to go after Jarrett again. So Jarrett got this stick that Galento had, or this bat, and he beat the shit out of him and was going to kill him. He got 200 stitches, Galento did, and then after those stitches came out, sometime shortly after, in Batesville, Mississippi, I'm not exactly sure where that is, but it doesn't really sound like a very big town, Lawler was against some young guy that he didn't remember, and then Galento attacks Lawler and tries to get him with a straight razor. And Galento's wife was even there, because not only was his wife not smarting up, but his wife was also a bit of a goddamn kook. So Jimmy Valiant had a gun and pointed right in Galento's eyes. And, well, when he died, he only had one eye. Sammy Davis Jr. only had one eye. And then they show brief clips of the Eddie Gilbert, Jerry Lawler incident where Lawler got run over in the parking lot, and they actually had to have Lawler go back out on camera after getting run over. The police are telling him, we're getting too many calls about this. People want to, they want blood. You go back out there and you say that we can call off the investigation. Because fans were buying into it. And then we get to Joe Leduc, the Canadian Lumberjack, who was insane. You want to talk about somebody who looked insane. Apparently a nice guy, but looked insane. He had strength that was unreal. Hold a car up, or hold himself up against the wall and keep a car back from running over his legs or pushing his legs up into his sternum. And then he would do the grip thing where he would hold, people would try to pull on him, pull with ropes and everything, but he would just do this. There's a way to gimmick it, but still, you got to have unnatural strength to do it. And then he had an axe where he took a blood oath because he was facing off against Jerry Lawler. And he took a blood oath. This is what we do. And he just did this. And God damn, it was insane. And then before that, Lawler talks about how he wanted to get thrown over the top rope to a table. But the problem is he grabbed the rope to kind of steady himself. And that stopped the momentum enough to where he hit the edge of the table, sliced the upper muscle in his leg. And somebody said, don't get up. Don't worry, I can't, he says. And Lawler, was good to hear from him on this. Even though I don't care for Lawler now, it was great to hear from him talking about these stories because he was integral to the territory. And then Jimmy Hart and the Iron Sheik waving the Iranian flag and stuff like that. And there was footage of a U.S. chopper or copter that went down in Iran recently. And they used that footage. Well, a couple fans, a father and son, I believe one of these sons was in that copter. And they decide, okay, we're close to the Memphis studio. We're going to go in. They said, we're going to come down. We're going to come down and kill you. And Jimmy Hart's doing this, waving the flag and doing this, all this promo. And Jimmy Hart, manic Jimmy Hart in Memphis was a fucking sight to see. God damn, he was tremendous. But he's just doing this. And then apparently one of the fans followed him for a while. And he's just like, he even joked about how, oh, let's have a match in the Mid-South Coliseum and everything. Let's work this. But then the guy kept calling the promoter, when are we going to work this? When are we going to work this? And his phone was getting blown up and he was sick of it. But yeah, Jimmy told some great stories here. And then Dutch talks. Apparently they wrestled in an old prison, or in a prison where there were inmates and there weren't a lot of guards around and everything. But because the bad guys are the good guys in prison and the good guys are the bad guys, however that fucking works, however he said, Dutch got cheered wildly. And then we go to the Louisville Symphony, where they had an orchestra play, and people were just seeing the orchestra play. They were just orchestral fans. And then suddenly out of the pit, the ring rises up, and it's Jarrett versus Dutch Mantel wrestling. And the symphony played along with the beats of the match, and that was great. And that match is actually in the Smithsonian. Now, that's pretty goddamn cool. And that was great to see that old footage. It was so great to see. Lance Russell and Dave Brown, great commentary. So great to see this old footage. And then the travel was tough, going to all those towns. Even though Mid-South was a lot longer trips, it was still tough. Jackie Fargo, the Fargo strut. I can't even do the Fargo strut. But he was a master of ribs. Loved to play ribs on people. And then there was this atomic bomb stuff. This is something that Jarrett told about him, Tojo Yamamoto, Jackie Fargo, and Jerry Lawler when Jerry Lawler was just getting in the business. And Jackie Fargo was his mentor, the man that got him in there. And they put the atomic bomb in Jarrett's underwear, or Jackie's underwear rather. And Jerry had to spill the beans when Jarrett and Tojo went out for their match. And he said, don't put those on. They did this. Oh, okay. So then he took that bomb while those guys were out in the ring and put them all over their clothes. And then he just pretended that, he was all like this, combing his hair, and they're all laughing. And then Jerry and Jackie leave. Well, Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto put on their clothes, and they get down the road, and then they realize, shit, we're doing all this. And they got the tiger bomb on. They have to tear their clothes off, throw them in, get the wrestling tights on. And they're like, okay, Jackie owns a bar. We're going to go kick his ass. They don't go kick his ass because Jackie wasn't there. And then we talk about the Lawler-Kamala police story where Kamala was pulled over by Jerry Lawler, but he's a big African-American man in Tennessee. And even in the 80s, it was still whatever. And he had a light that looked like a police light while he was frisking him. And then he grabbed his friggin' dick. And then he's like, oh, King. And it was just, it was funny. See, it was funny because nobody got hurt. So that's why it was funny. And then the Poffos are mentioned quickly. The ICW thing. Randy Savage, and talk about the Waffle House knife fight, where he was irritated not getting his food. Some guy came in, him and his girlfriend. Well, now his wife got married. And Savage just yells, who gives a shit? And then he got in a fight with the guy. And then the police tried to get him. The police couldn't get him. They sicked a dog on him. The dog bit him in the ass and apparently left a pretty good gash. Dutch Mantel talked about that. And by the 90s, Memphis Wrestling closes down. Continental Wrestling Association, USWA. I think by 96, 97, it had closed down officially. And even though other incarnations had popped up, it wasn't the original Memphis Wrestling. And Jeff Jarrett even said, Memphis wrestling was sports entertainment before sports entertainment was a thing. And honestly, looking back at Memphis wrestling, that is the truth. So that's Tales from the Territories. Now, that was pretty fun. I'm interested to see what they're going to do. They're doing, obviously, the Lawler Andy Kaufman episode next. They're doing ones on Portland Wrestling, Polynesian Pro Wrestling, Florida Championship Wrestling, the Crocodiles, the AWA. I'm very, very excited to see what they're going to do here. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do for Dark Side of the Ring Season 4. So, by the way, you're getting this review a little bit earlier due to the fact that I'm on a different work schedule. So, after next week, these reviews will probably be up sometime Wednesday afternoon because there's only so much time in the day and also I need sleep. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.